What's up, folks? Welcome to Desmos Live. How are you feeling today, folks? Sometimes you are the wall and sometimes you are the ball. Which one are you folks today? This right here, this sweet graph is courtesy of Ezra Oppenheimer, who discovered something, naughty Ezra, naughty, discovered something he shouldn't have in the calculator, something fresh and hot that we're working on. Love this. Go free, little ball, go free. It's always a treat to be here with you folks. For me today, we have a couple of items planned, but first, a big welcome to folks coming in from Dr. Kris Child's Twitter feed or from OpenUp Resources, companies that we dig and people we dig. This is Desmos Live. It's 30 minutes every week, every Thursday, talking about what's great and fun and interesting about math education every week. So great to see you folks. Great to see the questions in the comments about using social justice in math classes. A lot of really important worries out there that we will dive into in a moment. So first of all, I want to bring in onto the chat one Shira Helft. So let's see here. Yep. Hey, Shira. Shira is someone that I knew when she was just a baby teacher, just a new teacher, learning how to teach. Stanford University with Joe Bowler. We were in the same kind of cohort group there, thinking about teaching and learning. And since then, she's gone on to teach high school mathematics all around the Bay Area. Most recently moved back to New York City during this time of coronavirus. Shira, tell them something I haven't mentioned about you there. What should they know about you?
What should they know about me? I am totally obsessed with dumplings, and I am currently in my childhood bedroom. So welcome. It's lavender and lovely. And I'm just so incredibly grateful to be here and be thinking and learning with all the folks who are here, both in this chat and also virtually with us.
Learning live in real time. Scary stuff in any circumstances, and we're tackling big topics here today. So first off, we wanted to drop for you folks a new activity, fresh, right out of the oven, and exclusive to you folks for right now. So Shira, I was hoping you could walk us through a couple of the elements of this activity that you like the most. What catches your eye about this, which of course, Shira worked on, we all work on, all of our principles and effort and energy go into these. This is not just any one person, either Shira or I, who worked on this, but Shira, what'd you like about this activity here? Tell us about it.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to start by saying that with activities like this, and I'm really excited to share this one, I think we're really in a learning stage of trying to figure out sort of what works and in what way. I wonder if you could go ahead and head to screen 2.
Yeah, screen 2. Let's do it. There it is.
Yeah, and so what we're looking at is we're looking at data from the Titanic. So current topic, no, but like relevant ideas, hopefully. And we ask before we look at any data, we ask students to think, decide if they're going to think if there's an association or not. And I think my goal or my hope is that this is going to tell students that, what they believe about justice and injustice in the world is really valuable. That they can believe that the things that they might know from their life outside of math class might help them make a decision about whether there's an association or not an association without having any numbers to look at quite yet.
Yeah, when the numbers drop in, what happens to a student's mental processes that disallows them from or inhibits them from sharing those kinds of ideas, in your opinion?
That's a really good question. I think there's something about the expectation that you're supposed to use only the thing that you have available. Only the data that you have. Once there are a whole bunch of numbers in there, there's got to be some correct procedure or idea, or there has to be something right about what you're doing. And there's something really beautiful about saying, do you think there's an association? And the only thing you have to go on is the fact that these are women, men, and children. And actually, you'll see in the second activity, we do the same thing, not with gender or sex, but we do it with class. We do it with what kind of ticket you had. And so asking students to say, hey, what do you know about the way that men and women are treated differently, or that non-binary folks are treated differently? What are the ways that folks who might be able to afford a first-class ticket are treated differently than folks who might be able to afford only a third-class ticket?
Should I jump over to a different screen and share that part?
Yeah, why don't we that's on screen, I think 7 or 8. Let's go ahead and head over there.
Sure.
6.
Cool. This right here, 7?
Yeah.
6.
Yeah, let's go back to 6. There it is. Yeah, and so we do the same thing. We're looking at graphs now, but it's the same idea that you don't have any data yet. The only thing you know is that there's this relationship between first class, second class, and third class tickets, and we want to know, do we think there's an association? Do you think that every person in every class had an equal chance of surviving the Titanic, or did some folks have not an equal chance of surviving the Titanic? And you come to see, if you go on screen 7, that it isn't equal, which lots of us know from all the personal experiences that we've had, that as much as we wish there was, that this data would look like there was an equal percentage of first class, second class, and third class tickets, that's right. Not the way that it fill out.
Right. It's interesting that the survivors, that there's like fewer survivors in the second class ticket cabin, but it really kind of provokes the proportional reasoning of that a segmented bar chart offers when you see like the percentages of each kind of group and their survival rates. It's fascinating. It's obviously a horrifying context, but obviously rich in terms of how math allows us to dissect it in ways that our intuition, which while important, does not alone. Cool stuff.
But I think also can sort of bring to bear our opinions from the outside to help us make sense of those mathematical ideas.
Right. So we've been pretty tentative here at Desmos. First of all, this activity is available to you folks. My favorite people in the world. People attend Desmos live in process. Folks who catch the recording, you are second favorite. But for folks who are on here right now, head to that search bar and type in the top secret words, finding associations, and this activity will pop up for you to use whenever, wherever. For free, all you folks. But Shira, we've been, I would say, fairly tentative in how we've incorporated social context, social justice context into our activities. Do you agree with that assessment? What are your thoughts about like how care and caution is called for here?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right that we've been cautious. And I think also we would be humble to say that we have a lot to learn. We're trying things, but we're definitely in a learning space related to this. And I think for me, it points to some pieces of our equity principles. I'm wondering if you could pull those up.
Yes, right there.
Yeah, and so our first equity principle of 3 is that we want our products to serve all students and teachers. And we know, if you look at the second sentence, that means that we have to focus on identifying and attending to the needs of marginalized and excluded communities. And part of that means like recognizing the reality of the world that we live in and creating a space to have conversations about that. And it also means, if you go to the next slide, that we want to ask ourselves this question, which is that last one, which is, how might we support the identity and power of the communities we serve? And I think identity and power, to me, those are partly linked to ability to look at the world and use your own ideas plus the mathematical tools that you learn to make sense of it. And we have a lot of fear because our number one mission is to serve all students and teachers. And we know that those conversations not had will can actually be more harmful than powerful. And I know that I have in my classroom accidentally done harm without realizing it because of my privilege and things that I just didn't see. And in fact, if you look at that activity that we just released, and you don't have to go back to it, but we link out to teaching tolerance in the first screen. So if you look at that first screen warm up and look at the teacher tips there, you'll see that we know that there are going to be some difficult conversations that happen in this lesson. And so we link to folks that we think are more expert than we are, for sure, to guides to having some difficult conversations, because we know that those are important. And also we know that not done well, they can cause harm. And so that's where our tentativeness lies. I think we both want to learn and we want to not be shy, but we also want to work to set up teachers and students for the most amount of learning and success and feeling safe in their communities.
Yeah, absolutely. In addition to people in the comments offering affirmations to you, saying things like dumplings are delicious, there was a whole lot of people earlier on who, when we asked them, like, so what are your questions and concerns about using social context in the math classroom, people were saying things like, that they're worried that they'll, be able to include all voices, for instance, or that they'll do harm despite their good intentions. Melissa says, I might make a mistake. that same worry, we're a bunch of folks, just like you folks at Desmos, we're there worried about the same kind of thing. So that's one reason we're super excited that Dr. Kris Childs was willing to come on and spend some time with us. Let me offer my best possible intro here for Dr. Kris Childs. You've been welcome. You've been a math teacher, a teacher of math teachers, conference keynoter, teacher workshopper. Most recently, you are now the Chief Equity and Social Justice Officer at OpenUp Resources. Hope I got that right. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Childs. How are you doing, and what have I missed from your bio there?
I support teachers to the fullest, but I am doing well. But that's the main thing out of all of that stuff that you said. My focus is on teachers. How do we give them the tools and supports they need? And my other focus is on students and ensuring every student every day gets a high quality educational experience.
Yeah, clear. That's I
add that to the bio.
Please do, yeah. And I'm just cobbling from different sources here, and that's definitely that ethos is definitely present in every single tweet I see from you. Has just kind of is filled with love for one or both of those groups, students and teachers. So yeah, I'm really excited. You've been well. Here's the setup here for me is I saw this website, this press release. Very cool getting a press release, and I was filled with excitement both for you and also for OpenUp Resources, a group that at Desmos we've collaborated with them a little bit, know some of their leadership, think they're awesome, and obviously we are building with the curriculum that they've been publishing for a while now. So I was excited for everybody. Number one. And I was also, I immediately thought about a study that came out in 2019 that basically said that like professional learning that is tied to curriculum stands the best chance of impacting the most people. That like there's these one-off workshops that I know I've done a fair number of those. Like I come in for a little while and I talk about something I think is amazing and then I leave. But teachers go back to their curriculum, which has such a shaping effect. These researchers found a shaping effect on what they learn. So I got pumped because I know that you've done like the workshop thing. You've done the conference keynote thing. Like I first saw you at CMC South at a big ballroom, right? And so I'm really curious, like what is it that you're going to be able to do in your position at a publishing company that is different from what you've been doing in the past? Like what are you excited about in this new role here?
I'm excited about everything. So shout out, I'm looking at the chat. Shout out to the OpenUp family. It's an amazing team that I'm working with at OpenUp. So I'm just first want to congratulate them for going on this journey with us. But I'm going to be able to do a lot of different things in this particular role that I've not been able to do in the past. It's OpenUp develops a high quality curriculum. So very first thing we're working on is how do we improve the curriculums so every student sees themselves within the curriculum. I noticed earlier in the principles for Desmos, you talked about all students. When we say all, it's not some, it's not those. Literally every single student seeing themselves within the curriculum. We're going to talk about that more on the show tonight. Also having the opportunity to work professional learning. With that study that you just mentioned, professional learning is key, and we've both been in the field. And I actually used to tell my clients, if it's just a one-off, it's not going to benefit your teachers, it's not going to benefit me. Let's think about how do we have a relationship, and that is what we're committed to at OpenUp. And then the last piece at OpenUp is thinking about how does it look from an organizational stance, this change. It's one thing to say you have a book. It's another thing to say you have professional learning. It's another thing to say, and we actually internalize this. This is what we believe in, and we can showcase it not only in our external pieces, but internally in every single component and aspect that we do at OpenUp Resources.
Yeah, I love it. I'm gonna bring Shira back in here too. Who's you saw her comments about our own lesson. We're feeling tentative and trying to work on these sort of ideas ourselves also. Something I think is really interesting about the OpenUp Resources Curriculum, which of course predates you coming on in the last couple months there, is that like it doesn't, I don't think it's like explicitly focused on social justice, and it's not the top like 5 adjectives I would use to describe that work or our work. But what I do think is that it really treats the classroom as a social space and treats students very seriously and tries to confer power on them to have interesting ideas. That's part that I think is really cool. I'm curious, what kind of ideas, how are you going to, there'll be new drafts of this curriculum that I'm sure you folks are working on or in process. What are you thinking about as far as like how to make some transitions or changes or adaptations? Like what's got you excited about that next draft of the OpenUp Resources Curriculum?
One of the things, as you mentioned, with the curriculum is good. It's a solid math curriculum. But now we need to start thinking about what does great mean. We need to unlock the mathematics beyond. Let's look at the Common Core has been out for a significant amount of time at this point. We've had good problems for a significant amount of time, but now it's time to switch the lever to actually engage students in mathematics that's going to be meaningful and relevant to their lives. And most importantly, through the social justice stance, how does that translate into impact in their communities? That is the next step that we're looking to take because, again, there's nothing wrong with a great task. But now, how many times do we see, especially during this COVID area with parents at home, everybody's making these memes and jokes. You don't use this math. You don't. When are we going to use this stuff? And we have to be honest as mathematicians. Sometimes you would never use it. Thus, it gives us an opportunity to unlock math in a way that is meaningful for these students, where they can see math makes sense for the world around me. And we can do that through a lot of different ways, a lot of different examples. One example, a quick, easy one, community gardens. Thinking about, instead of just letting students read a problem about a garden, what if this group of students, you read a problem about a garden, then you actually got to engage in developing a community garden at your school. That's what social justice and real math is all about, and to what we're focusing on to open up. How do we unlock these, as you used to say, Dan, these static textbook pages and make it real to the students? You take them through a textbook page where they're talking about a community garden, let them go build a community garden, and guess what? The families being served by the community can access the community garden. Easy, simple way. I'm looking on my right-hand shoulder in the chat. Everyone's like, I'm afraid of what to do.
Yep.
There's no one in America that's going to get mad that you planted a community garden. Are there some more higher level topics that we can get into? Oh, yes. And we're getting into those tonight also.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I'm thinking like it's possible to create a textbook problem about a community garden that like is just operational and doesn't involve students in like what Shira was talking about like the kind of the power axis of Rochelle Gutierrez's definition of equity. I don't know, Shira, when you hear Dr. Childs talking about like a community garden as a context, love that context. How do you imagine like that could be used in ways that would support students in experiencing power in their communities, or not? What are a couple of different ways that could go? As a curriculum designer yourself, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think a couple things. I mean, I think there's something really powerful about what Dr. Child said about like taking a need from your community and then using the mathematics to turn it into something, right? And there's something about a community garden where basically, like, the school that I taught at for a long time, Gateway High School in San Francisco, made this amazing community garden while I was there. And like community members walk by all the time and we like give out plants and flowers and vegetables. And like, there's something about the work that you do either having an impact on like the way that you see the world, like you're just better able to have interesting conversations about topics. Like one thing I really like about the Titanic lesson is, even though the Titanic is probably not the topic of conversation all the time, like you will see facts like that a lot, and being able to bring yourself to that. And then I think take the Titanic lesson and then say, hey, find an issue in your community, make a segmented bar graph, and then present it to someone, right? So that there's an authentic audience for the math that so that the thing that you learned, you can immediately say, oh, hey, that's going to impact someone I know's life, or that's going to impact the way that someone sees something.
Love it. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Childs.
As it relates to this community piece, we have to become a part of the community as educators. Are we authentically involved in understanding that community and allowing the students to come up with these contexts? That's one of the keys with social justice. Like I make a joke in some of my presentations. It's not about what I like. It's about what the students like. And with that piece, let's say the community garden is a need. We talk about it through the context of math. Let's say police brutality is an issue. We talk about that through the lens of math. And why do I use those opposite ends of the spectrum? So as our teachers are watching this, they can see we have to go deeper with mathematics and really use it as a catalyst for change for these students. Right now, part of the problem with the students is we're forcing all of our students to assimilate into the system and not providing these liberation experiences. And that's where social justice can be important. If police brutality is not an issue, immigration may be an issue. It may be bullying at the school campus. It could be the lack of teachers at the school campus. All of those are different issues that we can push in on to provide these students these opportunities. And I know you mentioned Rochelle talks about this rehumanizing mathematics, and it's allowing students to see themselves in the mathematics from an authentic lens. Zaretta Hammond talks about that. We always talk about the surface culture, but from this deep-rooted culture piece, letting students see themselves in the mathematics and unlocking the power of mathematics that can really transform, in some cases, transform their lives, but in other cases, if it's police brutality, it can actually save their lives. And that's what we need to push. And those are the things that we're working on with Open Up, with our curriculum writers, is getting them to go into some of the more, I call it quote unquote challenging topics, but it's really the topics that our students talk about every day. They see all these things on the news and they get to class.
Yeah.
We're like, we can't talk about any of those things. But those are the opportunities and windows to pull these students in, especially students. I don't use the term marginalized. I use historically excluded groups. The students have been historically excluded from the narrative. That's how we can pull them in when they see themselves in entrepreneur pursuits and STEM pursuits, all of these different ways that we can unlock math.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Totally.
It's, I've seen a lot of your commentaries around like who is missing from these conversations, and in particular, who's missing from the conversation about what it is I'm learning on a day-to-day basis. Certainly, the good folks that OpenUp Resources or Desmos are having those conversations, right. But you're talking about like customizing what's going on to their interests, which is really challenging and fascinating. And I'm wondering, a worry that we have is that as curriculum designers, like we might like put teachers in a position where they have these conversations in ways that further exclude populations that have been excluded, or like a teacher is developing their own racial consciousness, and we're like all of us at Desmos and around the world and country are in different stages of this. You put a problem into a curriculum that goes out to everybody. I'm just kind of curious, how are you thinking about like in doing your best, whatever you can do, short of teaching every single student in America, obviously yourself, but to ensure teachers are well prepared and can have these conversations in ways that are rehumanizing for students. What are your thoughts there?
Good question. We have to think about it from the lens of, and I'm looking in the camera and tell everybody, because I see a lot of different comments with it. You're going to make a mistake. Give yourself that opportunity. Take that off. You're going to make a mistake. Everyone makes a mistake when you're just teaching fractions as is. When you're teaching different conceptual understanding pieces, you're going to make a mistake. So give yourself that freedom. We're looking at through the lens of 4 different things that need to happen. First, we need to get curriculums with the problems in there to give teachers just the opportunity to grapple with them. The second piece is professional learning is going to be key. You have to have professional learning, not just traditional professional learning where we just focus on the numbers and the pedagogical approach. We need to have professional learning that is helping teachers with their personal identity. We talk about students' mathematics identity, but we need a lot of teachers to really look at themselves in the mirror and do some self-reflection. Because with these topics that we're mentioning, students are ready. It's us that we're holding them back. So when we think about PL, looking through a lens of identity piece and the mathematics as it relates to social justice. Another piece that we have to authentically start to talk about, and in my role I get to do this, is looking at evaluation rubrics of curriculums. They need to be changed to modify to meet the needs of today's students. And when you change those pieces, it forces the publishing world to say, hey, all right, we got to do more, because it's like school. If it's not graded, no one wants to do it. And then another piece that is key is teacher recruitment. I think that's an avenue we try to take ourselves away from. But as the students are diversifying in the United States, right now, 53% of students identify as students of color. We need to start, how are we thinking about recruitment with teachers to provide them these experiences? All the data is showing when a student has, especially a Black student has a Black teacher, their chances of going to college and seeing it raises exponentially. Thus, we need to work on diversifying the teacher force. So how do those 4 things fit together in a nutshell? You get better curriculums. Students see themselves in the curriculums. You're impacting the teachers that are delivering it. So you're building their consciousness. In the same token, you're seeing the students are seeing themselves in the curriculum. They're seeing teaching as a viable career. One day they may want to be a teacher all of a sudden. And then as we're pushing in on these rubrics with these outside entities, now you're getting the power brokers and the power holders to see, hey, I don't want to do this. And some of them have said they don't want to do it, but guess what? You're going to be forced to do it if you want to stay in business. So again, from the business side, we have to push in on all of those fronts, and it can be done. And those are things that we're working to do.
That's huge. Yeah, I came on here thinking like, so what's Dr. Child's going to do for curriculum at OpenUp Resources? And yeah, you know, like that role you've got in other companies, it's oftentimes like internal facing. You know, the chief diversity officer is looking at like company culture. But I'm so excited that you're there and they're with you, and you're looking so far externally to curriculum, yes, but you're also building like a whole need for professional learning. You know, as you change the curriculum, it's like, all right, now I got to change this other piece here, and ed reports better watch out, you know, and see what they've got in their rubric to evaluate, to make this valuable for publishers to pursue. I want to just shout out real quick the Black Teacher Project. Every child deserves a Black teacher is their motto on their T-shirt. Really interesting group doing lots of work on the recruitment you described. Yeah, it's just we just wish you all the best here, and we are eager to collaborate with you and open up resources as much as we can and learn from you folks. Just want to say thank you for your time. Give it up in the chat. The chat's been going wild here. Just super excited.
Yeah,
to hear your voice.
Looks like you want to say one more thing. I want to say one more
please.
thing, but go ahead. Go ahead.
One more thing. Okay, one more thing before we go. I know we're running short on time, but one of the things I want all of us to think about in this new work: who is missing from the decision-making table? How do we bring them to the table and actually create authentic space for them at the table? That's one of the keys and problems that we've had. We've had these siloed experiences to create these solutions. And I say these solutions with quotations, but we need more voices at the table that are representative of our students, and need to listen to those voices. The stuff that we're talking about doing at Open Up in general, they've been done before. But we need to pull in those voices, acknowledge those people that have historically done the work and give them their credit, and bring all of these voices to the table. If we care about students, if we care about them, we're willing to do these things and step out of our respective comfort zones to provide every single child a high quality educational experience, no matter where they are, and look at them as scholars and building upon the greatness that every kid brings into our classrooms every single day. So I thank you all for allowing me to be on this show for this minute. And everybody that's teaching and watching this, you keep doing great work, but let's push ourselves further now. We have a tremendous opportunity to change education for the better, and we can do it.
Really appreciate the challenge. Everyone here ought to feel challenged. We're lucky to have folks like you and others who are supporting this work nationwide from a huge platform now. Really exciting. So give it up for Dr. Kris Childs and Shira Helft in the chat. Throw them some love. Let me just tell you next week what's going on. We'll see you back here Thursday next. Hit that like button, that subscribe button. I think those are all the big buttons there. And just know that our team works on 6-week cycles across the company at Desmos. I don't want to cause any loss of sleep for you folks, but just know that our 6-week cycle is coming to a close next week. So a lot of interesting stuff is going to drop midweek next week. Try and sleep after that announcement. And I want to say this, we're going to have Suzanne Von Oy, Graph Team Specialist, coming on to reveal secrets of the Graph Team, how to create some really interesting things for students to work on. And we'll be also releasing a request for a feature that I think is the longest running feature request we have had here at Desmos. I know it predates the Activity Builder. I know it predates me. It is not the most intensely asked for feature, but certainly I think it's the longest, most asked for feature over time. And so get wild, get ready for that. Come on back here Thursday. I think it's at 4 p.m. Pacific. And have a fantastic night, folks. Thanks again to Dr. Kris Childs and Shira Helft for joining and helping educate us here tonight. Take care, folks.